these technologies exist, I think is the point for the audience. And we need to be aware that there is a way to actually get extremely personalized and specific when it comes to the healthcare protocols. And it's not about just like guessing and like the doctor's subjective opinion. You know, everybody's like, I want to go to the expert in Lyme. Well, that expert in Lyme is literally just giving you what they've seen work in the past with other patients. They're not basing anything off of you.
Welcome to the Beautifully Broken podcast, brought to you by AmpCoil. I'm your host, Freddie Kimmel, and on this show, we discuss the common thread survivors share after walking through the fire, the practitioners making a difference, and the treatment modalities that deliver healing back into the hands of the people who need it most. Witness the inspiration we gain by navigating the human experience with grace, humility, and a healthy dose of mistakes. Because part of being human is being beautifully broken. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sitting down and tuning in. This is a very special episode. I had the opportunity to sit down with Dr. Nick and Dr. Nicole. Yep, they're married and they're that cute the way they're named at Integrative Wellness Group in Belmar, New Jersey. And we've crossed paths before, and these guys are game changers. And I want to do an episode on their center and everything they bring to the table. But on this episode, they actually interviewed me on AmpCoil, which is a company I work with, and it's a technology that I use. If you're a fan of the podcast, you know we mention it a lot. And we're just going to go into the world that exists filled with PEMF and sound and frequency and all those good things and how they interact with the body and how they can work for some people and how it might work for you. So sit back and enjoy this interview. Love these people. And you can also catch this on YouTube if you want. This will be up live with video on my YouTube channel. So thank you so much. And again, namaste. Enjoy the show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Integrative Wellness Radio. So I am here with Dr. Nick, my co-host. And then I am also here with Freddie Kimmel, who we had the luxury of meeting at the Brain Conference that was held. When was that?
That was in late March.
In March, okay. Mm-hmm. So we were roaming around the conference, and there were tons of different vendors. And what's hilarious about it is most of the vendors there, we actually own their technology. But we have heard about a very specific technology for a while called the AmpCoil. And he was there, and he was showcasing it. And it was actually kind of crazy because, and I'm going to let you go into what it is and why you're into it.
Totally.
But I found it really funny because at the time I had this very interesting, it wasn't really a rash, it was spots on my thumb. And I kept thinking like, what is this? And it wasn't necessarily changing. And then Nick was like, I think it's your meridian. I think it's your lung meridian. So I did the voice activation or
voice print.
So I did that, and I literally had to say the alphabet to the technology because it was synced up with a software. And as I'm doing it, it literally says lung and large intestine meridian. And I'm like, oh, that's creepy. So I did I don't even know if I told you this. I did the treatment with the AmpCoil over my abdomen, and the rash went away the next day.
You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, it was completely gone.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. So I was like, I love this. Can we buy it? And Nick's like, we have so many technologies. Why don't we just wait? But we do love the technology. We think it's amazing. It is definitely encompasses some of the principles of other things that we use with our patients. But I definitely want you to tell us just like a little bit about the AmpCoil.
Yeah. And
also, why do you work for the company and why are you such an advocate for it?
Oh my goodness. So let me start with AmpCoil.
Okay.
So AmpCoil, for people who have never heard about the technology, AmpCoil, AmpCoil, it's a PEMF device combined with frequency. And what it is an amplifier, a very powerful amplifier hooked to a magnetic coil. It looks just like a modified Tesla coil. Mm-hmm. And the power runs through the amp, through the coil, and through the coil, it generates a magnetic wave. And the magnetic wave is encompassing the body in a toroidal field flowing up and around, really washing the body in a magnetic field. And the other component is that we have a tablet that has pre-designed frequency journeys that are broadcast through the amp, through the coil, and it rides on the magnetic wave. So you can think of the magnetic wave from that Tesla coil as like the delivery system. And that's what's taking those frequencies into the body. So in its truth, it's sound therapy. You know, it's really a way to go anywhere and everywhere in the body. I think some of the limitations of people seeking wellness, especially in chronic illness, are that we can think we're smarter than an imbalance. Let's call the imbalance Lyme or a viral load or whatever. We can chase it with antibiotics or even ozone, and we can push it into the regions of the body where there are no blood flow. So hollow organs or collagen tissue. And for me, it's this pattern that I see working with so many people with chronic illness, is that when you go through a divorce, when you lose your job, when you go through that big stress response, 2 to 3 to 4 months later, you have this setback. You have a reoccurrence of the imbalance. So the other component is just the magic of the company is really the software. It's a software company at heart. The app that you talked about on the computer is the beauty of frequency is that, again, it can go anywhere and everywhere. But the beauty of the Better Guide app, which you use, is that everything's programmed for you. Okay. Everything's done. You push play on the tablet and you sit back, you kind of rest and receive. You get your 33-minute sound therapy session. And it really, those frequencies, they harmonize the body. So it's like session after session, you're just slowly moving towards wellness, as opposed to thinking that I'm going to sit down and I'm going to get a quote unquote treatment. You know, the thing I like to, sum it up, it's like we're a collection of 700 trillion cells, however many bacterial cells. It's a big old sandbox. And to think you're going to kick the bad guys out of the sandbox and then just be, go back to before, that's the old paradigm.
Yes, 100%.
It's like, how do we work with environment and work with wellness to rebalance? And that's what it is. And then to sidebar quick about my story about why I work with them is, my background is music theater, Broadway, singing and dancing in New York.
Oh, funny.
A little Phantom of the Opera, a little Billy Elliot, Cagney the musical, I did this for 20 years. Halfway through my career, I was diagnosed with, first, like some type of mystery infection, chronic joint pain, which I ignored. I ate Advil, anti-inflammatories, indomethacin for 5-6 years. And then I wound up in a hospital with metastatic cancer, testicular cancer that had spread to the lymphatics, like 9 tumors. It was like a mess, and it went from totally being this artist, a performer, to making these massive decisions about my health. I'm starting chemo. I'm maybe doing this retroperitoneal lymph node dissection in a year. It was just like my life got turned upside down. So it was through that.
I know none of this, by the way.
Oh, this
so
is
I'm
all
like,
new.
I'm like sitting here like, tell me more.
So it was that process which took the cancer away, took my HCG, the hormone that this cancer produces, down to 0. But when I was done, my body was a mess.
Yeah.
A mess. Abdominal adhesions. I don't know if the audience knows about abdominal adhesions, but it's essentially intestinal scarring where you touch the intestine with a human finger and it also makes a fingerprint. And the body makes a scaffolding. They're like, oh, you've had an injury. Let me put in this collagen tissue while the body heals. Well, most people that reabsorbs into the body after the trauma is done. And mine, it just kept growing after these surgeries.
Yeah.
So I would be rushed to the emergency room every 3 weeks. They take out a foot of small intestine, go in and lysis all the adhesions with lasers. I mean, the poor people that, the 2 people that I dated through this time, I mean, they were just saints.
Yeah.
Because I just really laid on the couch and all the stuff that happens when you stop moving, mitochondrial dysfunction, chronic fatigue. I tested positive for Lyme disease. I really, the brain fog was beyond.
Yeah.
I remember tying my shoe one day and I was I held the laces. And I just held them for a minute. I was like, whoa. I had this aha moment. So I did everything and everything under the sun, everything and anything. I bought an ozone machine, intravenous IV. I went to clinics all over the States, hyperbaric oxygen, infrared lights, everything. Mm-hmm. And really, I got pretty good. I got back to like being in a show, but it was like all the effort every day, all day to be able to do my life. Mm-hmm. And it was depressive.
Yeah.
Because I was just tired of trying to be well. And it wasn't too long. It was like a year ago almost that I saw a podcast with the owners of AmpCoil, and I was like, I want that. You know what I mean? And at the time, the Trekker model, which is one of the ones I brought, it was their most expensive travel model. I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm buying it. Didn't try it. And within like, it was probably like 4 or 5 weeks, I just noticed this, like, I called my mom. She's like, why are you so happy? And I was like, and it was that moment, I was like, I wasn't fixed, mm-hmm. but I had tons of hope.
Yeah.
And I wasn't worried. I had this huge stretch where I just kept moving forward. Mm-hmm. And I had more energy. And then just like since then, really learning how to use the technology, it's just taken all the other stuff that I had, mm-hmm. and it's amplified it. And I'd say that technology, it's brought my understanding of like what the body needs to come back in a balance. Mm-hmm. Whether it's like nature, because essentially like pure sine waves are nature in a box, mm-hmm. from the coil, or it's good nutrition, or it's being held and loved, or dealing with emotional trauma, mm-hmm. that it's been this tool where I could go access those.
Yeah.
And that was such a long time to talk. I'm so sorry.
No, that's awesome.
That's the whole thing, and it's so I started because I'm a communications person from the theater world. I really, I came to them at first. I was like, I love this. It was like, sponsor my podcast.
Yeah.
So we started the Beautifully Broken podcast, and I was like, I want to interview all these people with all these modalities, and I want to know why they work and why they don't work for some people. Yeah. And I want to know, and then I want to interview survivors who, mm-hmm. have like spent $200,000 on wellness and still don't feel good.
Yeah.
Which, made me angry. Can we swear on the show? No.
You can swear all you want.
Okay. I edited
earmuffs.
I had the earmuffs. I had the quick edit button.
Well,
but it's really frustrating to but that was the way in. And then, I work with their sales and marketing department around messaging, mm-hmm. because my big belief is that anytime we get a thing and we're like, you need this.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah.
You need this. You need heart, you need body, you need the belief that you have the inherent capability to get better. Mm-hmm. Anything that you're going to put on a pedestal that's going to be like your demigod or, mm-hmm. Have this dogmatic belief that it's the only thing you need is like total bullshit.
Yeah.
So as a tool, I love it as a tool.
Yeah.
But it's just one tool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's really the foundation of our practice it's really just about, we always say it's not about what you do, it's about how you do it, because we do believe that there needs to be a lot of strategy when it comes to the healing process, because, when we work with people, and especially if you embarked on going to different types of functional integrative physicians, like you kind of get this laundry list of you have Lyme, you have co-infections, you have mold, you have viruses, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I have all these things going on. But it's, even despite having all those things in your body that, potentially are causing some effects, it doesn't necessarily mean that your body is ready to kill them or detox. Like, mm-hmm. you have to look at the foundation of that person's body. Like, mm-hmm. do their detox pathways even work? Is their immune system working? Do they have physical components like scar tissue? You have to consider all of those things. And Dr. Nick is really the person who has learned very specific techniques so that we can really test for what is appropriate for the person. Everything from the supplements, and it's really using Klinghart's methods, from the supplements all the way to the protocols. And so we really do things strategically. So it's like maybe we're fixing the foundation first, then we're maybe detoxing, then we're potentially working with the neurological system because we've decreased the inflammation. And now your neurological system can make changes that last, opposed to trying to, restore or balance something that's still dealing with toxicity and inflammation. Like, it's just not possible.
Yeah.
So we're very big on using that type of strategy in our own methods and having various tools. And, we think the AmpCoil is amazing for being a tool as well, but we might collaborate that with other modalities to hit things from a variety of different angles.
Yeah. I totally have my favorites. I have like my Fab Five.
I was just gonna say, I love what you're saying. Like the AmpCoil, it's like using it as a tool, but also understanding that, like talking about the old paradigm and really like trying to think of there's a fight, and really it's like if you're trying to fight something that's inside of you, it's a part of you. So it's like you're never gonna win that battle. It's a win-lose. Somebody's winning, somebody's losing. We need to make it a win-win situation. Yeah. And when you can view the body that way, it takes you to the next concept. Is really any symptoms really just a lack of communication. Mm-hmm. So it's like looking at your communications major and then going to the AmpCoil and looking at the whole thing that it does is it's just increasing the quality of the communication that has somehow been broken. So it's like, I think the best part about like the AmpCoil and just, a lot of these technologies that are helping the body communicate better is let's use that as a tool to allow the body to communicate. And at the same time, let's use other tools and techniques to be able to fix kind of why that communication process was broken in the first place. Mm-hmm. So it's like you can go at it in both spectrums and not just be so linear thinking and get some amazing results.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's and for some people, they'll jump on board, and because it is part of the frustration of the founders was that the money that people would spend to go get well, and it's just not. There's so many there's so many people that come to AmpCoil, and I'm on the phone with most people. They've seen 37 doctors and they're in medical debt. Yep. So it's like, do you price this? It's priced to keep in your home. It's priced to do, like, they have a financing for $800 and $159 a month. Yeah. Even when your credit's like not great, but they still try to get people a device so you can be working on the communication within your own body at home. Yeah. And that's one of the big frustrations for me when I'm trying to guide somebody as a coach, as a health coach, which I've done for 10 years. How do you put them together a program that works for them financially? Because that stress. Yeah. It's like, how am I going to afford this?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that we have really tried to put out there from a webinar perspective, a podcast perspective, is when you really think about most of medicine and the common and well-accepted practices, everything is biochemistry based. Mm-hmm. Think about all of our testing. All of our testing is looking at the chemistry of the body. Yeah. Nothing is necessarily looking beyond that. So, okay, you have broken chemistry or you have abnormal levels, then what can we use to correct that? And it's chemistry, pharmacology. Mm-hmm. So the entire system and all of the testing and all of the tools are based on one aspect of the body. And it's not necessarily looking at frequencies. It's not even looking at mitochondria even. Mm-hmm. The research as well as the modalities out there to help mitochondria are kind of comical, to be really honest. I know. And, and then we also have this age of functional medicine, and functional medicine is fantastic, but I have patients that come in and say, well, isn't it if I just cut out these things that I'm going to be good? And I'm like, I really wish it was that easy. That would honestly make my life so much easier as a physician. But no, I've been there, done that. I changed my diet. I was taking 45 supplements and I was still running into roadblocks, and I was getting frustrated and I was overwhelmed, and I had, what would you say? How much?
As soon as you stop, then it's like
you feel like crap again.
Because you don't have that, compensation for it.
What would you even say, the amount of money in our supplement cabinet at our house?
Just currently?
Well, no, because we use some of them. But at one point, what do you think the max amount of money in that cabinet was?
Max, probably $35,000 currently. Yeah.
Of the trial and error of, I think the supplement should be good for me, or that sounds like it's good, and that's supposed to heal your immune system. So we need to take the guessing out, number one, and we need to look beyond chemistry. And we need to leverage technologies like the AmpCoil, because when we started even using a frequency-based technology called the Bioresonance, we were kind of holy crap. we like to see changes within minutes, let alone maybe hours. You're just like sitting there, you're like, this can't be possible.
Yeah.
This can't be possible. And it was the same thing for me when I used the AmpCoil, like literally not only felt so much better, felt energetic, slept amazing, and then just see that rash go away. And I was just like, holy crap.
Yeah.
So it's just, these technologies exist, I think is the point for the audience. And we need to be aware of it. We need to be aware that there is a way to actually get extremely personalized and specific when it comes to the healthcare protocols. And it's not about just like guessing and like the doctor's subjective opinion. You know, everybody's like, I want to go to the expert in Lyme. Well, that expert in Lyme is literally just giving you what they've seen work in the past with other patients. They're not basing anything off of you.
Yeah.
And also, they're an expert in Lyme. So they're not looking at mold. They're not looking at viruses. They're not looking at your lymph. They're not looking at scar tissue and adhesions in your abdomen. They're not looking at that. They're the Lyme expert.
Yeah.
So it's like going to the expert is not necessarily always serving us.
Yeah, this compartmentalized paradigm that we've created is problematic. And that's why you guys are doing so well here with the space that you've created where it's so integrative. You know, and I knew we talked for like 30 minutes, but I was just like, whoa, power couple. Like, it was just like, your energy is palpable and the excitement and there's, you know, there's definitely like, and me from coiling so much and working with frequency, I pick up on like the charge of other people instantly. And in fact, I was doing a consult with a guy today who has just been, you know, he flew here from Israel to Ohio to Denver. He's $100,000 in chasing like a mold toxicity.
Yeah.
And everybody's, you know, giving him, he's like, I just want to be told what to do.
Yeah.
You know, and he was like, so he's in that fight or flight.
Yeah.
He's a black mold exposure. So a lot of aggression, a lot of, he's very angry, which I've had a massive mold exposure. And it made me very angry. Like I could feel, I was like, this isn't me.
You got a moldy brain.
Yeah, this is the mold.
Yeah.
Because I'm not an angry person, but I was telling him I would walk down the aisle in Target, past the cleaning supplies, and just tears.
Yeah.
Just because the environmental toxicity was so intense for I never imagined in my my young farm boy life that I would be that weak.
Yeah.
Just like Superman down the aisle with kryptonite. So anyways, back to this guy. So he was like panicking. And I was like, I'm like, dude, you're good. You're smiling right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're radiating on the screen. Your smile looks great. And he was like beside himself what he would do. I was like, we're going to sit down. I'm going to tell me everything you're doing. I'll tell you what all the experts say. I'm not a doctor. Yeah. I'm not promising anything. But we can definitely evaluate, and I can promise you don't need to spend $10,000 a month to get better, which is what it was sounding like, you know, whatever these protocols were. I was like, that's ridiculous.
We don't charge enough.
Yeah. I know.
Oh gosh, I know. It's crazy what's being recommended that it's at such a high price tag, and that is really like the most heart-wrenching when you don't see people get results from those things.
Yeah, it's always because it's just a linear viewpoint. It's like even what you're saying, it's not that blood chemistry is bad. It's a very important part of the body, but it's like if you're only looking at that, or if you're only looking at the energetic, you're gonna miss a part of the system.
Yeah.
So it's like being able to look at communication's never one way.
Yeah.
So it's like when you look at the body just as a vessel of a lot of communication, it's like biochemistry is awesome, but it's the slowest form of communication. You know, it's like hormones are one of the last steps of being made, which is why it takes so long to get a change in the hormones.
Yeah.
And if you go to the opposite, it's like the very fastest is energy. So it's like, yeah, you can do a blood workup, see what's imbalanced. You could do like AmpCoil and see what's going to have showing up there. And then let's actually work on both at the same time and meet in the middle and get the fastest results. Yeah. So it's like, I think it's just our lack of almost creativity to be able to really step outside the box and say, you know, let's not say only one thing's work, and let's be able to look at everything and to be like, this isn't bad or good. Let's just use it all.
Yeah, it's not bad or good.
It's not a win-win situation. Like, let's use it all and just win.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. Just and I'm sure you guys, the more people you talk to, and you see what's happening, you know, because we all see it. We see we've all got autoimmune. Maybe we've all got two. You know, and it's a really common occurrence that I think that's why I'm so attracted to, you know, using like frequency and magnetics because it's the body electric.
Yeah.
It's an electrical body before it's a chemical body. The electrics govern.
Exactly.
And you can do a session, like, you know, you can go do a session on most PEMF machines, and right away it's going to help change the charge of that cell. For the audience, you know, essentially the inside of the cell is supposed to be a negative. The outside of the cell is a positive charge. So when those blood vessels flow down the capillaries in the fingers, they like repel. So it's like nice traffic on a street, you know. And the interesting thing is like the capillaries in your really small organs in your fingers, it's like 5 to 10 micrometers wide. Like that's the width of one cell. So if you have these stacked blood cells, like it's called the Rouleau effect, they're stacked like a stack of like lottery era casino coins.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're not going to get oxygenation to those tissues. But you can do a session on a harmonizing session on the coil, and you can feel your circulation shift. You know, you could do that on the Beamer mat too, but I think, or a different delivery system. But there's something very unique about the resonant frequencies, combining that with just a standard PEMF device.
So I actually want to hear from both of you on PEMF in general, because I know there's a lot of different types out there. And I know you've personally done a lot of research. So I'm curious to hear just kind of about your thoughts about PEMF in relation to the AmpCoil. And then I'm going to come back to you for that same question. Boom.
Quick fire round.
I mean, I haven't studied the AmpCoil really that much.
Yeah.
I've studied just foundation of energy. That's why I kind of got into looking at PMFs. The thing that I do know about AmpCoil that I really do like is that they combine kind of two fields into one. And it's kind of like what I've done with Arconia lasers that we have. Is like I use lasers as pretty much a transmitter. Light, sound, same thing. They can be carriers of information. So looking at the whole body as a communicator, how can we communicate better with it? You can communicate first and foremost with energy, whether it be in light, be in sound. They can both carry a lot of information. So the AmpCoil, what I'm thinking, sounds like that they're carrying just information through the vibration of the pulsed electromagnetic frequencies. Light's just doing it through that electromagnetic wavelengths through light. So that's why I'm infatuated with both, because kind of going at it two different ways. And the lasers I have cost more than the AmpCoil.
Yeah, they're expensive.
Bad choice.
They're expensive.
Yeah, they're very expensive. Great results too with it. But I mean, when you look at the body, light and sound definitely affect differently. So it'd be interesting to kind of do both and see the results that way. It's just when you look at that, not to get too in depth with the audience, but they're affecting different structures through the communication pathways through the body. But pulsed PMFs, and this would be because I don't know much about AmpCoil. What I've read is that depends on if you're using like not only the voltage, but how much voltage you're pushing into. It's going to affect tissue a lot differently. That's like difference between Beamer. It's very intense. A lot of people like that. What I've found personally through a lot of just honestly research, and I've tried a lot of things, I'm not the biggest fan of Beamers. A lot of people love them. But what I found with the Beamers, with that high intensity, it can be beneficial short term, but long term, honestly, the body doesn't communicate that intense. So I found more of a longer duration with a lower driver, lower milliwatt voltage is going to actually get better results for longevity aspects. So it'd be interesting, and that's just through research and a little trial and error, and I don't know much about AmpCoil, so it'd be interesting about their driving process.
And you said AmpCoil is usually like 33 minutes. Is that what you said?
I would say that's an average session.
Okay.
There's shorter. There's little quick tune-ups that are 15 minutes. It's like a little brain reboot program. It's 15 and a half. But then there's ones that are like a cleansing journey. So that would be like trying to lower the vibration of something that was considered a disturbance in the body. And then there would be a restorative, which you would want to heighten the vibration of, the systems of the body that make us run at our best.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So when it comes to, like, I know one that we're familiar with is like the earth pulse and then the beamer. So I guess like when it comes to the AmpCoil, where does it really shine? Like with certain, I'm sure that it helps so many different types of conditions, but where does it shine with the different types of people that it's helping? And what is the major difference for some of its competitors?
It's a great question. I would have to say it like anything, it just depends on what that person is bringing in to the room when they're gonna do a session on the AmpCoil. And I think it shines in the fact that we have put so much just divine design into the waveform. A lot of frequency and PEMF devices, they'll use different types of a wave, and we do a pure sine wave. So it's like the Earth is a magnetic field. It pulses the Schumann resonance, which is like 7.83. Thank you. 7.83. And
we study very different things at night.
Yes, boys and girls do.
Oh my gosh.
So we're getting to this, the molten core of the Earth, and then there's a layer of metal, and then there's dirt. The Earth is a magnet. So we're getting the sustained magnetic pulse every day, all day, very well if you're barefooting on the ground and grounding.
Which is cool, because there's science showing being barefoot will change the actual formation of the hemoglobin.
Yes.
So that's cool. I mean, you're seeing the same thing through
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have to think about our modern design of life. I mean, how many people in this room have been barefoot in the dirt today?
Yeah, nobody.
Nobody. No, I mean, our camera crew is
like
not.
Me.
So it's to go back to this technology to deliver a pure sine wave into the body it really does feel, and I've tried all the machines, it just feels like you're coming home. It's so calming.
Okay, so for the person that's going to make a smart remark right now and be like, well, I'm just going to put my feet in the dirt and not buy my AmpCoil.
Sure.
What is your response?
Well, because that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great.
But would they have to like stand in the dirt for the rest of their life to get like obviously the amplified effects?
You have to think about the environment then. What are the other frequencies that we're exposed to in this building right here? I'm sure there might be a little Wi-Fi. Just a little bit of Wi-Fi.
Literally, there's like 20 apartments upstairs.
Right,
I'm sure every single one has a router.
I'm sure if we put up a tablet to try to see what frequency we picked up, we'd probably pick up like 10 or 15.
Probably
so those are all
more.
Competing signals for an electrical body. So I think, just if you were just going to stay outside and stay barefoot, I'd say that's probably a good modality, but maybe not realistic if you've got to go to work and make money and do all the things that we've designed this world to be.
I'm really glad that you said that, and I just want to make like a side note about that is a lot of people do not understand what they cannot see, and this kind of goes for the AmpCoil and its treatment, but secondary to that is we also do not consider the level of radiation that we are all being exposed to. If anything, we want more and more and more. We want the 5G because we want faster internet. We want to wear I always butcher this, AirPods, is that what they're called? The things that the wireless headphones, we want to have Bluetooth everything.
Things in the ears.
Things in the ears. And then we have our Apple Watches, our Fitbits, our refrigerators talk to us. And we think that this is a massive advancement, but what we don't realize is how this is actually really compromising the electrical signaling in the body and even our cellular structure. And that's one of the reasons why I think that when we use different types of frequency-based technologies that are helping to balance things out, we're seeing such a bigger shift because our systems are so bombarded and stressed by all of these external factors that nobody's thinking about.
We don't think about it because we can't see it.
Exactly.
And to go back to actually just the pulsed electromagnetics of AmpCoil and that pure sine wave, with that we have the frequency that's between 5 and 10,000 hertz. Now that software on the Better Guide, which is really, like I said, that's a divinity of the device, is our programming. And it's every 2 or 3 to 5 seconds. It's changing frequency and Gauss and power and delivery. So you're never getting that. That's why 60 hertz from a light socket next to your bed is so disruptive to the immune system. It's a stressor.
Yep.
It's like pounding a nail like through the wall. And with PEMF and frequency especially, you want to vary. You want to move all over. And it's really cool. We'll do this later. I brought 2 coils. And you hold magnets, and you can see that magnet is going to be like or wubba, it's always changing the vibration. So you can feel, and to speak to, it's called Gauss, like Gauss. There's definitely companies, the one I can think of right now in the sports performance world is Pulse Centers of America, which it's like a $13,000 to like $35,000, maybe up to $50,000 price point. And it's really a chiropractic model. It's really, but you put those pads on your body and it, your pecs like shake, you feel it. And it has this, they talk about like high Gauss. And Gauss needs to be really high only at, from my understanding, and I'm not a designer and engineer, but to push the lower frequencies in past the blood-brain barrier, and then you can back off when you're in the higher resonant frequencies. So it's not about a constant, it's power versus force, if you know that book. And it's just, it's a dance through the whole journey, and you would need to have 100 years of frequency experience to do the programming or achieve a journey that's on this technology. So it's really the design and the done for you element. When you do a program like, let me give you an example, just like a nutrition, where it's all these nutritional frequencies that are broadcasting. And it's not that we're broadcasting vitamins into the body. It's the signal of like, an acidophilus. So maybe your body remembers how to absorb or work with acidophilus better. It's like, it's an entrainment, it's a lesson. It's all information. It's hitting one tuning fork, and the other tuning fork that's not moving is gonna pick up that A flat, and it's gonna start to sing at that A flat. That's all frequency is. It's trying to like give you this resonant frequency. Now there's a TED Talk by Anthony Pollin, who does, he uses frequency to go after pancreatic cancer. And I think it's been a while since I've watched it. He achieves like killing 30 to 60% of the cells through resonant frequencies, not PEMF, not AmpCoil, totally different delivery method. But you can see where sound can really make profound change in the body. And I think that's, for me, that's so exciting, like where we can go. And there's you could do 100 different combinations now.
It's like sound homeopathy.
Yes, it's and in this ever-changing world that's increasingly more toxic, I think we need solutions like these in the home. So you could do a flight from LA to New York, and you can do your demo harmonizer, and you can just kind of reset everything so that jet lag is less. You could go and, you're around, you drop your kids off at parent-teacher conferencing for the day, and you're around all these germs, and you could come home, you could do an immune boost. And just give your body the signaling and the sound so that it remembers, oh, my innate immune system is brilliant. Give it the refresher. Just give it the refresher course. And like we said, it's just working. It's getting you back to you. So that's the big, different, long-winded answer.
I think it's interesting too, because it's kind of piggybacking off of what you're saying, is that it's not always about bombarding the body even with like certain nutrients or, other things to manipulate the biochemistry, because it only matters if you can use it. And really what it comes down to is like these different sound frequency types of technology, they can activate the receptor sites so that your body can use either what it has or what you're putting in. But people all the time, they talk about all these vitamins and minerals that they're taking, but then we run their labs and they're still deficient. And I was like, you can take it, but it doesn't mean your body's going to use it. So I think that it's like the AmpCoil is enhancing the body's ability to use potentially what it already has
Yes.
as well.
Yeah, we have those resources in there.
Yeah.
You know, I just had a really big victory. I just did my Great Plains food sensitivity test.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I've always been like 20 items in the red.
Yeah.
And I had one. I had apricots. That was my one red level, like, do not eat. This is food sensitivity. You know, it was the least results I've ever had in my whole, like, 15 years of, like, being down this chronic illness rabbit hole.
Love it.
That was super exciting. Yeah. And then my like miraculously, like my white blood cell count from going through 4 rounds of etoposide cisplatin, which are the 2 chemotherapy agents for testicular cancer, always been about like 3.8 white blood cell, like kind of like tired. Doctors are like, oh, you need help. They were just at 6.1.
Oh wow.
And that's
fantastic.
That's since 2006. So I've had things change in my blood work, you know, whether it was the coil, whether it's like, you know, me sleeping better.
Yeah.
Because I'm more balanced, or I'm absorbing more nutrition. I think it's probably my body is just like finally like picking up some of these lessons. And I like, for me, that's empowering.
I think it's a good way to say it is it's making your body more resilient is really, you know, and that's definitely a philosophy that we try to uphold, is trying to create more resilience in the body. Because the last thing that you should do is you have to do this therapy, or you have to do this supplement, or you have to do this diet. Because if you stray away, you're not going to feel well anymore. And it's helping for whatever that person specifically needs. It's helping to build that resilience is really where healthcare should be going.
100%.
Yeah.
So, well, we thank you so much for this. This has been awesome. So
let's go try out these
we're going to go
AmpCoils.
try out the AmpCoils, but for you guys, I think the biggest thing to kind of sum everything up is that obviously his story is amazing and so empowering, and it's really knowing these different types of technologies exist. There are various types of sound wave therapies. So AmpCoil is the specific one that he's talking about, because if you go online, you type in sound waves, there's going to be a variety of things that come up. But really understanding that you can use so much strategy to create personalized health approaches. That's really where we shine. And then also knowing that there are so many different ways to get your body back to health. And like you said, it's sometimes doing a collaboration of things. He did so much groundwork and then found the coil, and that was like the icing on the cake, it sounds like. Yeah. So there's so many amazing things out there, and I definitely highly recommend checking out the AmpCoil so you can learn more about it. This is one of the best things you can have in your home to literally just keep you and your family well. Turn on those receptor sites and absorb your nutrients, and don't just like have the $30,000 supplement cabinet like we did.
Yeah, that's it's new paradigm, and you know whether you use this or another, you know, frequency or PEMF, it's look. I tell people, look at the whole picture, look at what's going on, but most importantly, like look at your environment. That's what I see, and look at what do you bring to the table as far as what you think is possible. Like, do you know what I mean? Is it always outside of yourself, the answers? Because I promise you, your body knows what to do. You know when a supplement feels good, or a workout, or food feels good. We know how we feel after we eat a meal. We know how we feel when we hang around certain people. Are they empowering? Do they shut you down? Are they waiting for their turn to talk? So look at the environment, because that environment is the most important thing. And I know that's encompassing whether it's air quality or water quality. And
of course.
And it can feel exhausting, but I think for me, like, and I want to say this to my listeners, the Beautifully Broken podcast, is that if you guys are in New York City, or you're in Jersey, or you're in Pennsylvania, make a trip to come see this amazing facility and try it out. See what it's like to work from a completely holistic model where somebody's going to look at the whole picture. And you're not just don't wait till you're sick with Lyme or your Epstein Bar or your thyroid. It's so much easier
when you come here not broken.
Come in and seek wellness. And wellness is again, the world that we're designing. It's everybody is going to need to make this a priority now and in the next 50 to 100 years. So now's the time. Today's the day. And check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you can speak to this, but it's like trusting your intuition with your body and really like knowing that you know best for what your body is. I know that you talk to so many patients about that.
I do, and it's a whole other podcast that we could do at another time.
We're gonna do some more episodes. We need to pick one topic and then just go.
That's Nick's zone of genius.
That's what I try.
Yeah. So it's funny being married to him when I have like a problem and I want to rant about it, and he's like, well. And then he gives me something insightful. I'm like, oh, fine. So yeah, it's definitely good to have that balance of the people around you. Mm-hmm. Like you said, is very, very important who you surround yourself with. But we thank you guys for being here with us. And we have the Integrative Wellness Radio podcast, and we have our Beautifully Broken podcast. So check us both out. We're trying to bring you the paradigm shift and quality health information, not opinion-based, real life situations that we see every day, and giving you tools to get better. So we'll see you guys next week.
Namaste.
Ladies and gentlemen, you made it to the end of the podcast. Now, in a world where the average attention span is less than 10 seconds, we just spent almost an hour together. And I think this is the beginning of something really beautiful. Now, one way to support the podcast is to head over to FreddieSetGo.com and check out my newly launched page, Freddie's Faves, where I've linked every 5-star product and healing modality you hear about on the show. Most offer significant discounts by clicking the link. And please know, it doesn't cost you anything extra, and at the same time, they support the show through affiliation. So check out Freddie's Faves on FreddieSetGo.com. This episode of the Beautifully Broken podcast was brought to you by our sponsor, AmpCoil, upgrading the vibrations of hearts, minds, and bodies all over the world. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, head over to iTunes and leave a 5-star review. Grabbing a download is like giving this virtual thumbs up that we're doing it right. And if you want to connect with me, shoot me a message on Instagram at FreddieSetGo.com or at FreddieSetGo. That's all for today. Our closing. The world is hurting. We need you at your very best. So take the steps today to always be upgrading, whatever it takes to move the needle. Remember, while life is pain, putting those fractured pieces back together is a beautiful process. I'm your host. I love you. Namaste. Have a wonderful day.